So I want to start with this. This is not Symantec, this is Darren. I used to be a CTO on the customer side, and I've been over the last 20 years involved in a lot of IT strategies. And here's my point of view really with regards to what good IT strategy should be about. So taking to one side for a second what IT might be expected to deliver in terms of specific services or applications or platforms. It's always been my view really, and I wrote a book around this a few years ago, that unless you keep a balance between this topic of risk and efficiency, you're likely to find yourself in trouble. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So I'm working with a lot of organisations at the moment, particularly in the financial sector, who have gone absolutely ballistic around virtualisation with a view to saving money. So VMware's big. What Microsoft are doing in the private cloud space is big for these people, and the key objective of those projects is typically to save some money, to consolidate applications, to consolidate platforms and those sorts of things. What I'm starting to see, and this has been developing over the past kind of 5 years or so, is that this maniacal focus on saving money has meant that there's been little or no attention on the other end of my seesaw here. And some examples as to what bad stuff might happen there, I'll give you a couple of anecdotes. So I was talking to a CIO a few months ago in London. He had asked his IT organisation to, in inverted commas, dip their toe in the water on VMware. So let's just take a look at this VMware stuff. I'm hearing great things. I think we can save money, we can be agile, we can get some benefit from this thing, but just have a little look at it and report back to me. 3 months later, he's got 5,500 virtual servers. He has no idea who owns them. He really doesn't understand whether they're in compliance or not. Nobody's backing them up, apparently, or if they are backing them up, they're not backing them up with under sort of the governance of the organisation. And frankly, he's got a mess. So they saved a bunch of money, and they're slapping each other on the backs and shaking hands around the topic of the savings and infrastructure savings in particular. But actually now, this particular CIO is exposed. And has got to spend a lot of money now to try to put that right. So there's an example of a seesaw out of balance. The opposite works as well. So I meet organisations, as you'd expect, working for Symantec every day, who are maniacal on the other end. So they have the most rigorous, the most costly security policy, security departments you can imagine. They're absolutely bulletproof. They're never going to go down. They're never going to get attacked. They're pretty much fireproof. Unfortunately, though, when I talk to the business in that particular organisation, the feedback I always get is they're too slow, they're too expensive, they're over-engineered, they can never do the things we want to do quick enough because it means kicking off another project and going through a bunch of governance, so they're not agile. So whether you're maniacally focused on this or this, my point of view is that there needs to be a balance. And in every IT strategy that I get involved in, that Symantec get involved in, we're always thinking about this seesaw idea. So if we're working on virtualization or cloud, yeah, we're going to be focused on cost savings. We're going to be focused on trying to achieve those sorts of benefits to the customer, but we're going to have an eye on this as well. And conversely, if I'm working on disaster recovery, for example, my point of view nowadays of a good disaster recovery project is if all I do is lower risk as a result of doing business continuity, for example, that's not a project success. I've been 50% successful. There should be ways in good business continuity discipline nowadays to save a bunch of money as well. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Because that's going to provide context really to everything else that I talk about. Good. Okay, so here's one dynamic that has certainly shaped the way Symantec are thinking and has shaped some of the stuff I'm going to show you in about 5 minutes' time. So we've noticed over the past kind of 5 or 6 years, this shift really, as we talk to people who are developing IT strategy and architecture, from this very system-centric way of doing things to what we've termed an information-centric way of doing things. So one of the things I do for a living is I often run what we call IT business alignment work.